All right, guys. So this is City Community Development and Recreation. Did you guys all get the agenda for tonight? It's out on Friday. Perfect. I'll take no objections to it's okay unless somebody wants to add or take away anything. All right. Well, we can get started. So I wanted to start it out with just kind of my guiding focuses for kind of what I'll be wanting to keep in the back of my head as kind of a theme for myself, just so that you guys kind of know what I'm thinking or what my priorities are at. But just kind of taking over with 3 guiding focuses and hoping that what we can do to get any legislation moving can kind of fit under one of those 3. So first, I wanted to make sure that we're focusing on sustainability, economically and environmentally. Doing stuff that'll keep the momentum moving, especially with the electric car charging stations and the recycling bins that we have going and kind of keeping that momentum moving. Family involvement, especially with the splash pad, making sure that what we're doing and what we move forward can grow family involvement. And then hopping on to Mayor Nichols' initiative for beautification, I think is a good way to kind of tie it into what's also already going on. That's just all I wanted to share with you guys, just so you guys know where my head's at when we go into the meetings and kind of what I'm trying to focus on when it comes to recreation and development. But yeah, all right. Well, that pretty much covers number 1, unless anybody has any questions.
I do. I'm sorry. I need you to repeat your 3 guiding focuses because the cat is giving me a hard time here. I'm sorry.
Sustainability, family involvement, and beautification.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. To move on to number 2, I want to make sure that we kind of start out with revisiting the idea of getting the recreation director position kind of better established and possibly to the point where we can have a job description to then be able to fill it, to then be able to figure out a appropriate salary or appropriate pay, and then to hopefully fill it. So that way, my goal for that is so that not all of the work falls on Mr. Mosby when it comes to recreation. And then on top of it, we have somebody that we can kind of look at and turn to and help build up any ideas that we want or have or dream of. So my plan or my hope is to suggest a motion or to motion at the next meeting to have administration rewrite or edit, or however we want to call it, a new job description or an updated job description for a recreation director.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
if you hear rumbling, sorry, my dishwasher's running. It runs forever, but my understanding as far as the recreation director, I know they need a list of duties and all that, but this would probably be pre-planning, because I think technically we would need to get students and young children where they would be able to get together with the director, or if the students would do like Zoom meetings with the director. In other words, I was thinking that we could plan on a director, but it might be due to COVID, it might be a while before they would be able to do in-person activities with the children. but nothing's wrong with pre-planning, but I'm just thinking about COVID wise.
Right.
I mean, COVID will always be here, but when it would be safe to do, we can do Zoom, no problem. But I'm looking ahead as to when the director could actually be face to face doing activities with the children. Thanks.
Right.
I'll mute. Yeah,
No, you're good. No, I think that's
that
a
was
good point.
just my thought also.
No, yeah, I kind of discussed this with Mr. Mosby a little bit, and I think that's a good point too. I think with the way this is not personal to North Collegeville at all, this is just how government in general works anywhere at any time. It takes a while. So I think if we kind of start the process now of coming up with a job description and start the process now of possibly figuring out what would we want the recreation director to do. We understand that we can't pay them a lot, so we're obviously not going to give them the duties of like a Madeira recreation director. We would more kind of keep it maybe less duties and figure out what those duties need to be, figure out, you know, what is Ron doing right now that a recreation director might be able to take over. And I think that kind of taking that step forward now will maybe hopefully, you know, down the line get it in place at a time when we can start doing activities again in person. But I know too, like I mean, stuff with the splash pad, that would be a recreation director's kind of job of kind of looking at, or like maybe it would, I don't know what Ron and Ari would want the description to be, but you know, kind of taking over the stuff for the splash pad and looking for grants. And I know we talked a few meetings ago about the drive-in movies and stuff, you know, that would be kind of taken over by a director, or the weekend workout times. And so I think there's definitely opportunities now for that director, but I agree. I think it'll be even better when we're out of COVID times, but I think it's always good to kind of start early. So if everybody's okay with that, or if anybody has any suggestions to the motion when I make it on next Monday.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yeah, Ms. Zorb.
Go ahead. Erica's first. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Erica.
I was just going to suggest that if we had a recreation director, then perhaps that individual could come up with some creative ways to have activities that are in fact COVID friendly, instead of relying on Mr. Mosby and Ms. Hall to do that. So I understand that we're still in a pandemic. We still definitely need to be safe, but there are creative ways to have activities. And then, you know, but if we had a recreation director, perhaps that individual could kind of make some suggestions to about what kind of activities those could be. And we could kind of do that. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah, no, I think that would be good. I think that would be something important to put in, especially, I mean, I feel like there are so many opportunities, even for, I know like the Cincinnati Observatory offers like a free online Zoom field trip for classrooms and stuff, like even doing maybe something like that, or all of my ideas are pretty classroom based at the current moment, but I'm sure we can figure out some fun stuff, and I'm sure a recreation director would really help with that. Mary Jo, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I'm just curious how this person, well, I guess first of all, who is on the rec commission right now? Do you know?
Yeah, so right now, I mean, the rec commission's kind of non-existent. Mayor Nichols kind of helped me figure out who was on it. It kind of sounds like currently it's a one-man team with Kim Stewart. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm
Ms.
wrong.
Anderson, if I may.
Oh, go ahead.
It was right at the beginning of COVID. Al Long was on it, Kimberly Stewart, gosh, Mr. Mosby helped me, Graves.
Oh, I'm sorry, Natalie Graves.
Natalie Graves. there was another young lady, I can't think of her name right at this particular moment. So as we speak, and then it was the director himself, Mr. Moore. As of right now, Mr. Moore has just not been paid. He's still the rec director, but depending on what this committee or what council wants in their recreation director, it would be up to Mr. Mosby to reappoint him or to appoint someone new. Mr. Long stepped down, so as far as I know, it's Natalie and Kimberly who are still there. And when I met with Miss Anderson, we talked about finding new potential people. I did speak to someone else who shows an interest in recreation. She is a school employee, Miss Michelle Miller. She actually grew up in the neighborhood and she has interest in becoming part of that commission. So right now, those are the only standing people that we know. Again, I said with COVID, pretty much there was really no need to, find people to meet because we couldn't meet, we couldn't plan anything, and we couldn't have any activities. And I would also like to add, if you, Miss Anderson, if you look in the charter, there is a section that speaks about some of the duties of the recreation director. So
Right.
I don't know if you've looked over those. So
Right. I feel like it would be beneficial to kind of have it updated or added to or switched up. I think especially with how tight the budget is, I think kind of keeping it kind of short and sweet so that way it might not take up as much of a budget, I feel like might be good. But even if it's just, even if they just come back with the same list and say, hey, we think this is sufficient, then, that's okay with me.
Can I get back to why I asked about the commission is because you had mentioned that there is, the word missed me, the observatory.
Mhm.
And if that's free, maybe that's something the rec commission can promote. I mean, and so that could still be happening right now is kind of where I'm going with it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Instead of waiting until, we don't have to have a rec director to promote free stuff that's online, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
The rec commission, I think, could fulfill that need.
Yeah. Mr. Mosby, I know that my mom, Mimi, runs the like NCH events page on Facebook. And then who runs the like North College Hill page on Facebook? Do you know?
The official city webpage we run.
Okay. Gotcha. Because even just like posting something on there. Okay, yeah. And I can try to like send stuff your way and whatnot. Yeah, my idea. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just wanted to add something to what the mayor said too.
Yeah.
We're at a place where, if we're being honest, we're kind of building from the ground up. And I'm not going to say that there's a perfect way, but I do think that something that is extremely important is to kind of get an idea of where council believes they should, be willing to commit dollars, for a recreation director. So the reason I say that is because, if council decides, okay, we will commit, $10,000 to a part-time recreation director. The amount of duties that a person is going to do probably for $10,000 is going to look different than somebody who is, willing to, or if council decides that they want to allot or budget, $20,000. And so I'm saying that because I do think that it's almost like which comes first, the chicken or the egg, but But for us, I think from an administrative standpoint, I think it would be most helpful if council decides what they want to allot as far as, finances are concerned. And then we can put together we certainly can put together a job description that would be commensurate with what council is looking at as far as what they think a stipend would be. I don't see it being anything, of course, other than part-time at this point. So that much, I think we know. It would then just be, how far should, or how much responsibility should be placed on somebody based on, what their salary or stipend would be.
Okay. I have two things floating. Going back to the rec commission for a second. I wanted to kind of work on stuff with the rec director first. I feel like kind of getting that position filled is probably more beneficial at the current moment. And I think if we kind of get a jump start on that, it'll be, easier to fill when more stuff in person is going on. But yeah, rec commission too. I think that's more, there wouldn't be much for us to do as a committee to get the rec commission going. I could be wrong.
No, you're correct. I mean,
Okay.
the rec commission is appointed by the mayor, by the Board of Education. So, that
Right.
would really be their function. The primary function of council in this case would be, again, funding that position of recreation director.
Right. And I think kind of getting that position of recreation director filled first, I think will be more beneficial, because I think we're going to kind of have almost a paid leader for the rec commission. And then I think that, that'll kind of follow. And then to go back to your salary point, let me know what you guys think. What I'm thinking is in the motion saying, asking administration to put together a job description that would fit between a $5,000 and $15,000 yearly stipend.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, does anyone have the previous recreation director's job description? Just, that seems like that would be a place to start or get an idea. Is that somewhere
Right.
in our filing system?
It's in the charter. That's the only one we have now, is the one that's in the charter.
Right. And that's more of like administration's role. Again, I could be wrong. I'm new here, but I feel like that's more of an administration role to fill. It's more just our duty as a committee to decide that we want that written by the administration. So we wouldn't be the ones writing it. We would just be the ones being like, hey, you guys go write this.
I'm saying that it is a job description written in the charter.
Right.
For the recreation director. So,
right.
Just so we're clear.
Right.
You want additional duties, which are understandable. But I think the way it was written is that the duties that I don't know what duties you'll ask for, obviously, but I think that it would fall under one of those principles that's already written in there. And maybe not.
Right.
Maybe not.
Well, and I think too, if Mr. Mosby looks at the charter and because I feel like right now, Mr. Mosby's kind of the acting recreation director, so I feel like he'll be the perfect person to write the job description if he looks at that and feels there's anything to add. That's
Madam Chair, I just found it. It says, sorry for the background noise.
Okay.
The duties of the recreation director shall be coordinate all recreation programs and activities of the city, and such other powers or duties as may be provided by ordinance or resolution. So that is
perfect.
Page 17 of the ordinance.
Okay.
It's amendment 11, 12, 10, amended, I'm sorry, November 2nd. And it's resolution 9-210. And it includes the commission and the director, but page 16 through 17. I found it. Okay.
Great.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
perhaps maybe if I could also just shed a little additional light.
Mhm.
So as the mayor pointed out, there is a job description, within the charter, as Ms. Bly just read. But I do think that one of the things that we had discussed, and perhaps what you also may be alluding to, would be, if this position is becomes established and is a paid position and is funded, then what we could do is what I would do is set certain objectives with the recreation director. In essence, goals to achieve. So they would all be pertaining to recreation. However, they would be, certain obtainable goals that could be measurable goals, excuse me, that could be looked at to determine, are we moving the recreation program in the right direction?
Right. Thank you. You took the ideas out of my head. Yeah, because I feel like what Ms. Blythe just read is very general. I think that would be the same description for Madeira as it would be for Indian Hills, it would be for City of Cincinnati, as it would be for us, the recreation directors in charge of recreational events. But yeah, I think getting more specific, duties and goals as to what to do. And I think once we kind of have that established of what we would like that position to look like in more detail, I think that's when we can start moving forward with filling the position and then having it funded. But like Mr. Mosby said, is it the chicken or the egg? Do we figure out how much we want to pay it first and then come up with a description? Or do we figure out the duties that we need done and then come up with pay for it? So I think this is my kind of idea. When I ask for the motion, or when I motion to kind of say to keep these duties or to keep the specifics to be able to be done under 15,000 a year. That is me throwing out a number. If anybody has a specific number that they really like, I'll take it.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
From what I am reading on this thing, it sounds like from what it says, the responsibility of the commission shall be to develop and maintain a comprehensive recreation program and to secure funding. But it almost sounds like there should probably be a commission first I'm just going by this charter, to map out it says comprehensive recreation plan. So it almost sounds like maybe there should be some type of recreation commission first, like members to develop the plan. I know they said there's a previous resume, but if you read this, it seems like you need the commission. I'm sorry, the commission along with the director together to work together. Right. That's what I'm reading. So we need to also get that, a recreation commission.
Right, but the commission's not under us. We don't decide the commission at all. That's done by that's done by the school and the mayor together.
Yes.
So that's up to them if they want to get that together. This is public record now that we're trying to move forward with the recreation director. So if they want to get together, that's kind of on them, I guess, more.
What it's saying is 5 of the members should be on. They need 5 members on the commission. They need 6 members. 5 members on the commission, and then the 6th person is the recreation director. That's what it's saying. Okay.
Right. Yeah, but still, that's not, not much we can do on our committee for that. That would more just be them, right? But yeah, to me, it kind of more would sound like the recreation director would be a more clear leader for, or however they want to set themselves up for the commission. So in terms of setting goals, setting ideas, getting funding, I feel like that would be really important to have that director there. And two, I mean,
and it also mentions that 2 should be appointed by the superintendent of schools. So it sounds like, I'm just guessing, I'm reading this 3 for the mayor, 2 to 3 by the mayor, and then 2 from the superintendent of North College Hill Schools. So I'm sorry, but it's all mapped up in the charter. So just for people that don't have a copy of the charter at hand.
Perfect. That's helpful. Thank you. Yeah, and I'll go ahead and put that on my list of duties. I can just kind of mention to Miss Stewart that we're trying to work on getting a rec director position filled and funded, and coming up with the duties and the responsibilities more specifically, or we're asking administration to do that. And then I can also ask her, kind of, reiterate to her what you just said to us of 2 from the superintendent, and then obviously Mayor Nichols is here, so she knows 2 to 3 from her. And then if they want to get that going, then that's on them. All right. Does anybody else have anything to add for the recreation director motion for next Monday?
I would be cautious to put a dollar amount in there until we see what the duties are.
Okay. All right, that's fine. We can yeah, because I mean, like we said, it's like the chicken or the egg. And of course, if they come back and there's like a 3-page list of duties, that's when we can deal with it. Okay. All right. I'm ready to move on to number 4, Mr. Mosby, if you can give us any updates on any city development and recreation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the primary things that we would be looking at would be, we've got the cleanup that is going to be occurring on the 24th. With that, I'm also excited about something else. The mayor, as part of her beautification initiative, would like to have planters that would be placed outside in certain parts particularly within the commercial or central business district, as well as a commercial business district. And I know at least one of those she wanted to have planted out front, in front of the city center. So our objective is to get at least 2 of those initially. We had a really good meeting with the Unified Progress Committee on Saturday, who has also committed to helping with this effort. So they also will be purchasing some of the planters as well. And so our initial objective would be to get the first 2 purchased and then set up in the community. And so we plan on having that done by April the 24th, which is the cleanup day. So we have that. I will also, be giving updates as we get them on Dumley Memorial Park. Of course, council did direct us to proceed with the demolition. One of the things that Mr. Cole has to do is we're going to do our best to get back on the schedule. My hope is that we can get on and get it done before the next committee meeting. So obviously, as the springtime is coming and the weather gets better, business is picking up for a lot of these companies. So, but I'll obviously give you an updated report by that time. The other part that we're going to do is to talk with our engineer so that we can really get a layout plan for where that splash pad would need to go. Keeping in mind several things. Number one, we know that there would be a need for, I don't want to call it a bathhouse, but a place where the users, the residents, would be able to change, bathroom facilities, making sure that they're all ADA accessible. So that will be incorporated into that plan, as well as some additional playground equipment there for Dunley Park. So that is going to be our focus for the next couple of years, is to really focus on, really getting that park improved. In addition to that, I am, as I think we talked about before, I'm going to look at using the CDBG dollars that have been committed to us as leverage for obtaining some additional funding for that. And I've already got a couple of feelers out now, so I'll continue to do that, over the next several months.
Madam Chair, I had a question for Mr. Mosley, which I'm not familiar with. This is one of the technicalities of the splash pad. I understand it'll be, use at your own risk, no lifeguard, that type of thing. But when you're dealing with the splash park and you're dealing with restrooms, I know the splash park is going to have certain hours that are open. Will there be a mechanism to lock the restrooms, like per se, after 7 o'clock at night during the summer? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I will talk to the engineers about is what type of security we'll need to have implemented into that, because I've already thought about, the different possibilities that could happen, even if we have a, high fence, that wouldn't necessarily stop people from climbing over the fence. One of the things that will happen, though, would be that, after a particular time, the water would be cut off. So it's not, the water is not going to be running 24 hours a day. The only other thing would be that we would have to make sure that it is closed, as you pointed out, Ms. Blythe, at a particular time. So we would, part of our work would be to make sure, that we have someone there to open it at, a particular time, let's say 10 a.m., and then have it closed at a particular time, which might be, 6 or 8 o'clock, something like that. So we have some time, obviously, to work on that. But yes, your question is a good question, and it is something that I've thought about as far as when we go into the planning stages of how this will be constructed and then established and maintained.
All right.
Ms. Anderson, if I may.
Yeah.
Mr. Mosby spoke about the planters for the city.
Yeah.
So part of what we discussed was that if a citizen wanted to maintain a pot, they could do so. We would provide, obviously, the pot, the dirt, and they can plant whatever flowers that they would like in it, and just be responsible for that planter if they so chose to, but they will have to let us know. And we haven't gotten all of that information out yet, but that was something that we discussed as well.
Right. No, I love that. Yeah, and even this is your guys' baby, but to throw out ideas, I know at some parks and stuff, you have benches that are dedicated and people get to have plaques and stuff. So if people really want to, having something like that too would be kind of cool. But your guys' baby, so your guys' decisions. But yeah, I love that planter idea. That'll be really awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Mosby. Does anybody have any other questions or anything that they want to add?
Ms. Anderson, I do have one other thing. I apologize, but
Oh,
one of the other objectives that we want to achieve is to have we want to be able to have a certain number of trash cans out in the community. So Mr. Cole is working with the Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to purchase several trash cans that we'll be able to have. So I just wanted the committee to be aware of that. And Hamilton County Waste and Recycling also has a program, where they actually match. So what happens is wherever we have a trash can, they will give to us a recycling container. And of course, the condition is that we have to maintain them, meaning that we have to make sure that they're emptied, regularly. But that has already been addressed because we actually have a part-time person that has been hired to really just focus on cleaning up, picking up the trash from the trash cans and picking up the trash in the right of way. So so again, Marty is working, or Mr. Cole is working with the Chamber of Commerce, the President Mickey Whalen, and so over the next couple of months, you should be seeing those being, appearing out in various parts of the community.
Yeah, I'm very excited about those. I think that'll be good. I know that's something that people have talked about for a long time wanting, and I've wanted for a long time too. So I'm excited about that. All right.
Madam Chair, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask Mr. Mosby another question. And I remember at a meeting, maybe it might have been December of last year, how we were saying that if you're on Simpson, once the students walk past the Maristop, did you plan on putting any garbage cans there? Like, I'm bad with streets, like where they're halfway between the Maristop and maybe I'm like thinking like Diana there. And then when you're going down Simpson from the Maristop, maybe kind of maybe halfway to the park. That way that would take care of, when students are coming out of school, if we had garbage cans on their route, those two routes, just one garbage can for each walking route.
Well, Ms. Blather, when you said Diana, so I just wanted to be clear. So you were talking about having a trash can like going down as you're going toward Clovernook Country Club?
Yeah. So once you leave the Maristop, maybe halfway between, I'm bad with street names, Diana and where Simpson is. And then if you were leaving a Maristop and you were going down Simpson towards the other way, maybe a can halfway before you get to the park that's located in Springfield Township. Just one can each way,
Right.
That's, kind of just one can each direct, just to see if that would help with the litter. Because I think, some of it is the paths that the children take once they buy their snacks or whatever.
Right. And we do want to make sure that we do have them in prominent locations. So we would be, for example, there is the one that's right there on Galbraith and Simpson, which is at the corner. And that's one that we've talked about replacing because that one is just the elements have begun to take their toll on that particular one. Same thing with the can on Savannah and Galbraith as well. So again, we are going to get several, and they will be placed in various locations. They will probably be around most of them will be prominently placed in the main area, so on Hamilton and on Galbraith. So yes, in that sense, we will have those.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just curious too. Have you guys talked to like the Center for the Blind and asked them about it, just like placement wise? Maybe like what's best for them, for their people, or for the citizens who are blind to be able to get around it, if there's like a preferred place for them, or even like keeping them updated on where we're going to put it, so that way their citizens can be aware.
That's a good question. I have not talked to them yet about this. We haven't necessarily confirmed all of the location, but you do bring up a good point, Ms. Anderson, and you're right. Like I was just, as you were saying that, I was thinking about corners like Galbraith and Hamilton, if a person is, accustomed to crossing the street there. Mm-hmm. I would say this though, in a situation like that, and also with a situation such as the one on, again, I'm just going to use this as an example, Galbraith and Savannah. Even if you were looking at, Galbraith and Grace or Galbraith and Betts, they would not be, we wouldn't place them out in the street. Right. So it'd actually be closer to the buildings.
Perfect.
So that they would be away from that particular intersection, so
Right.
that they wouldn't, be an obstacle for anyone. I mean, we absolutely would take that into consideration when we place them.
Right. Perfect.
If they were, as another example, if you had one, and this is what I was thinking about as far as Sundale and Hamilton. So if in a case like that, I think there is a pole that's there, if I remember correctly. And so the trash can itself and the recycling can, we might be able to affix those, to the pole using some kind of a, chain or something, which means that people would not be able to just pick them up and take them away. And yet we would still be able to get the trash cans and the recycling and everything and take them out. And it would also address that very issue, right? So that if they're affixed to it, then those who are visually impaired would not, they wouldn't end up running into those.
Perfect.
If they were placed too far out.
Right. Awesome. Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, I'm ready to adjourn if that's okay with everybody, unless anybody wanted to add anything. Perfect. All right. Well, then we have until 7:30 until finance. So go enjoy a nice break. Go step outside for a little bit. It's pretty out. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm at.
I'm back. Hello.
Hello.
Seems like we pretty much have everybody here.
Are you guys ready to start?
Well, I got like another minute or two left on my clock, so let's
Okay.
wait 2 more minutes and then we'll just let me know if you're ready then.
Sounds good. I am ready to start when you are.
Okay, go ahead, put up the graphic or whatever it is you got to do and let me know when I can go.
You're good to go right now.
All right, thank you. Well, welcome to our April 12th, 2021 Finance Committee meeting. This is my first run as the maestro of this committee, so I will do the best I can. I did send around an agenda, so before we kind of get going, did everybody have a chance to look at it?
Yeah, I did.
I must have missed it. I'll pull it up right now. Thank you.
I can forward it to you. I don't remember seeing you on the list, but I'll forward it to you.
Okay. Laurie, I don't have you on this committee. Am I wrong about that?
She is a member of this committee, Mr. Miller-Novak.
Okay. The last
Yes, I am.
roster
Thanks.
last roster I had didn't have her on it. So I guess we have 5 on here. I have Marjorie, myself, Erica, Mary Jo, and I guess Laurie now. So we have 5.
That's correct.
Okay. And it looks like we're all in attendance today then?
Also accurate. I'm going to respond to you, but not every time.
Okay. Well, everybody else can be open to answering too. Is Mary Jo here? She's the only person's voice I haven't heard.
She's here.
I am, yes.
Okay. Well then
Hi, Matt.
I will record you all as present. So did anybody have any objections to the agenda? Okay, silence is acceptance in my world.
No objection.
All right, so then we'll kind of move forward on it. The only thing I didn't have on there that obviously probably should have been is the issue of meeting minutes. Now, the good news and bad news. The good news is we have none to review and accept. The bad news is because I didn't get them from Amber Bailey. So that is a problem. So whatever happened, whether I think March there was no meeting from my recollection as a bystander, but I don't think I have any meeting minutes from February. So I don't know if there's anybody who can maybe volunteer to do the best that she can to maybe reconstruct those meeting minutes, I would be grateful, and I will take the meeting minutes moving forward.
Mr. Miller-Novak, it was my understanding that there was a suggestion that each committee co-chair would take the meeting minutes for each committee. I can't remember who made that suggestion or when. I just remember that it was made.
Well, I mean, I don't know that that was formally decided. I mean, I don't mind taking meeting minutes moving forward. Who would even be my vice chair here?
That would be Ms. Zorb.
Well, that's up to her if she wants to do it. I'm not gonna like ask her to do it or making her do it. If she volunteers, then she can do it. Otherwise, I'll do it. Mary Jo, do you want me to do it or do you want to do it?
I can tell you how I have done it in the past for Amber, and that is they're probably not as accurate as they should, or not, I shouldn't say accurate. They're accurate. They're probably not as detailed as they should be. So I send what I consider my notes to her, and then my expectation is that she looks at them and adds what she feels should be added. How does that suit your fancy?
Well, it's helpful. I'll take notes, you take notes, and then I'll
Meet in the middle.
Yeah, I'll finalize it and then present them moving forward. But do you think you could do February? I'm more concerned about that more than anything right now. I just don't want to miss a month.
I was kind of looking through my notes to see if I had done that for February. So let me see what I have. And yes, I will do that.
Okay, well, if you can just get me those before the next meeting, then I'll prepare the ones for this meeting, of course. And if you have notes you want to send me, wonderful. And we'll just approve them both in our May meeting and take care and kill two birds with one stone and catch up. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, the first thing kind of like officially on the agenda is that Ms. Hall is going to give us an update of our February's finances. So, Ms. Hall, are you here?
I'm here.
Well, you do your thing.
Okay, am I able to share my screen?
Yeah, I can get you to be a co-host. Hold on just a second. All right, you should be good now.
Hey, Matt, real quick, I'm sorry. In the
Yes.
future, can you send me the agenda in Word and not as a PDF? And then I'll take my notes right on the agenda. Is that possible?
Sure, I can do that for everybody.
Cool, thank you. Sorry, Erica. I mean, Miss Hall.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Hello?
Yes.
I can, yes.
You're
Okay.
good.
I see no one's faces, so you'll have to speak to me. Okay. So I just wanted to just go over just our first 2 months of financials. I did send out, unfortunately, I sent it out late, but I sent it out today, the financial report and the reconciliation statement to everyone, to the entire council. So everyone should have received that. Before I dive into this, I just wanted to highlight a few housekeeping things. Just for everyone's knowledge, the tax filing deadline has moved to May 17th. Our office is accepting returns if citizens cannot send them directly to Rita for whatever reason, and we are accepting those returns on Mondays through Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we are not preparing returns. We are just accepting those returns and sending them to Rita. So on behalf of our citizens. Okay, so moving on. Let's see, why am I screen not going? There we go. All right, so what you see here is just a quick overview of our entire funds, our revenues versus our expenses. As some of you will understand, all of our revenues do not come in right away. So that's the reason for why our revenues are trailing behind our expenses so far. But just rest assured our revenues will catch up as we get closer to the middle of the year. Just a few things I wanted to note is that as far as all of our revenues are concerned, we did see a net decrease that was simply driven by the fact that we received a reimbursement payment from Mount Healthy in January, and we did not receive any other income in February. So that's the main reason why there is a decrease in revenue there. You also will see on your screen there a decrease in expenses. That is due largely to the fact that we had 3 pay periods in January and only 2 pay periods in February. Additionally, with our Galbraith Goodman project, we had a larger pay request in January and a smaller pay request in February. So that's the reason for there being such a difference in the revenue and expense activities in those 2 months. Looking just at the general fund, what you see here is actually an increase in our revenue. So our general fund saw an increase, and that was due to just receiving an additional approximately $84,000 in additional income tax revenue above what we received in January. Again, the expenses are reduced between the 2 months. And again, that is because of the 3 pay periods in January versus there being 2 pay periods in February. Each payroll is approximately $100,000. So that is the difference that you're seeing there on your screens. Okay. And right here on this slide, I've just simply broken out the revenues in the general fund so that you can see by classification, roughly. I did my best to classify each of our line items in a, in a way that would make sense. But as you can see, we had that increase in the tax area there. We had some miscellaneous income. We had basically just a few minor things like from insurance or some random payments that came through this year as well. I do want to note that property taxes were actually received in April, so you will not see any real estate taxes on the first quarter reports, FYI. Those will not show until April statement. Okay, moving forward. We have looking at the general fund's expenses. I broke out these expenses by salaries versus other expenses. If you want to see something else here, or even with our revenues, if there's something specific that you want me to keep track of so that I can present that to you month over month, I can do that. But for the sake of time, I just simply split it between salaries and other expenses here. And you can see by the chart, again, we had lower expenses in salaries. Again, that is due to the 3rd pay in January. So. I also dug a little deeper into the salaries line. I know that overtime is important to council, or at least some members on council. If there is a consensus to continue keeping track of this, then we can continue to look at it every month. If not, this is a slide we don't have to have, but I did want to note that Public Works did not have overtime budgeted for, but the reason that you are seeing it there is because we had those snowstorms that really made an impact on our city, and it was really necessary for them to, be out around the clock to make sure that our streets were nice and clear. I also wanted to bring to council's attention that we have a retiring officer payout that should be hitting our overtime line item probably in May. If we decide to pay out the lump sum in May. So I just want to give council a heads up on that will hit the overtime line item, and it was budgeted for this year, FYI.
Ms. Hall, I have a question. So like the COVID, I thought, and I could be way off base, I thought we were paying some salaries through COVID. Is that, so I understand this is just an overtime kind of snippet, but did we have other salaries paid with COVID money?
So for the first 2 months of this year, we've not tapped the COVID line item for any salaries. I know that our police and fire did have some overtime that was related to, I believe there was a vaccination program in the city. So those are things that I'm working with the chiefs to gather that information so that on our Q1 report will accurately reflect whether some of this overtime does hit our COVID line item. So as of right now, I've not booked anything against that. There are no salaries that have hit the COVID. The only things that have hit are the laptops for that council instructed us to purchase, and some gloves that our police department requested that be ordered just for sanitation and PPE reasons. So
Mrs. Hall, I had a question. I'm new on council. Can you explain the retiring officer payout? I'm not familiar with how that works. So we pay him out 46K, or what is the?
So that's a combination of sick time, vacation time, comp time, and personal time that's left on the balance when they decide to leave. So those things that they are entitled to by contract have to be paid out. We did budget for this because we anticipated a couple officers retiring this year. So it's not an expense that is outside of our budget. We already planned for it, but it's just me letting you know that when you see that skyrocket in a couple months, that's the reason. So
Okay, great. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. So this is all that I have for the financial piece. Does anyone else have any questions before I move on to the next slide? Matt, I don't know if you want me to just go ahead and talk about the tax budget, or if you have anything else you want to add to the financial report.
No, but we can move into the next item on the agenda if you want.
Okay.
Since it's you can keep going.
Okay, I'll keep going. Before I go though, again, please reach out to me if there's anything specific that you want to see in this report. For example, if you need me to break something out in the expenses or in the revenues that you want to see, just let me know. And if this is good, if this works for you, then I'll continue to do it this way. Okay, so
Ms. Hall, I'll just chime in real quick.
Yes.
I appreciate that report, and I, for one, am always inquisitive about the overtime. So if you could leave that in there, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Hall,
Yes. Yep.
I'm not seeing the report in my email. That was,
Ooh.
yeah.
Okay.
It might have happened. I might have lost it. Just send it back because I followed along with you, but I definitely want to attach it to the meeting minutes.
So what I sent was our normal monthly report. So it's like maybe 20 pages. So I will also send you guys a copy of this because this is just summing it all up, making it succinct and not so wordy, if you will. But I can send this as well and resend the other one as well.
Yeah, I probably have the other one. I just send me the one that you presented off of today and share it on the screen because I want to attach it to the meeting minutes. All right.
I don't see either of them in my email either.
Okay, I will double check that I sent that. If not, I'll resend it out, and then I will also send this one out.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Okay, so
we'll stop bugging you so you can go
no,
on.
You're good. Okay, so just wanted to touch on the 2022 tax budget that we are currently working on in my office. The whole purpose of the tax budget is to provide the county auditor with a snapshot of how we're using property tax dollars and our other tax dollars, and they make a determination on what our 2022 tax dollars will be estimated at based on what we're placing in this report or this budget. So the action that council has to take, they are required to pass the tax budget by July 15th. The second thing, I, as a finance director, am required by law to submit the tax budget by the 20th of July. when the county auditor receives the tax budget, that tax budget then comes back to us with a certification of various tax rates. Council then must move to accept those tax rates somewhere in August or September, depending on how fast or how quickly the auditor is able to turn that around and be able to provide that estimate to us. So council will need to vote on that. And I believe last year, the county does its budget commission hearing in October. So I will get those exact dates of when the resolution of acceptance or resolution to accept those tax rates, whatever that deadline is, I'll get that to you so we know exactly when that deadline will be for this year. After council moves to accept those tax rates, then I will send that resolution then to the county auditor. And that's when we get a statement that basically says that these are the estimated tax rates that we are going to be getting, or the amounts that we're going to be getting in 2022 for our levy funds. And that is what I use to build our revenue budget. So that's the whole purpose in a nutshell of tax budget, and why it's kind of important that we go through this formality to kind of make sure that we're compliant with the county auditor. Okay.
Ms.
Any
Hall,
questions? Yes.
I think the one thing that I wanted to also point out to council is when Ms. Hall says the tax budget, she's referring primarily to the real estate taxes that are coming in for, our general revenue, as well as from the anticipated revenues from the levies. I only say that because, of course, we do receive tax revenue in the form of income tax. However, that is not part of, although she'll have those numbers on the report, it isn't part of what the county is looking at.
Okay, just to clarify, Ron, you're saying tax budget, real estate tax, essentially property related tax, but not
Correct.
income.
Right.
Correct.
So the rates that the county auditor comes back to us with, that's for our property tax rates. So my apologies, I did not specify what those tax rates are. Those are, so the tax rate is basically the amount that they're going to estimate as the property tax that we will collect in 2022. So council then
But
moves to accept that, and then that's what goes in the county's budget, and that's what goes on our budget, or as the estimate of what we will receive in the following year.
okay, well, that makes sense because the county doesn't touch your income tax. So
Right.
really, this is kind of a two-step process because the county
Mhm.
ultimately is the one that handles diverting certain property tax funds back to us, correct?
Yes,
That's
sir.
correct.
Yeah, and then also we are, we work hand in hand with the county because the county is required to submit it to the state. So they need our input, and then once they get that back from the state, as already mentioned, it comes back to us, and then we have to formally, or council would need to formally accept those numbers via resolution.
Are there any other questions?
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
just like the last thing, can you also email me this summary that you had up on the share screen so I can include it as an exhibit with the meeting minutes?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Does anybody else have any questions for Ms. Hall? Okay, let's move on. The next item on our agenda today is the revised salt purchase resolution. Correct, Ron? Still need to talk to us about that?
Yes, I I did want to bring to council's attention that, or excuse me, the committee's attention, that there was a SALT resolution that was passed. However, when I was talking to Mr. Cole about this, because that is the resolution that is, used to determine how much salt we would purchase. What I did notice is that there was no specified amount in the resolution, and so I did want to bring that to the committee's attention to see how they would prefer to have that handled, whether or not you feel that or it's recommended that just, a revised resolution with numbers in there would be sufficient, or, if council just said, it needs numbers in there, but unless council just said, okay, you would know what's best, but I don't necessarily think that would be the way to go. So however council would prefer to handle it, I just think that it would be important to, bring that matter to the attention of this committee and council.
Mr. Mosby, what question are you asking us again, please?
It isn't a question as much as it was, as I mentioned, when I looked at the resolution that was passed by council, there was no amount in there. So every year, council passes a resolution allowing us to purchase salt per the state contract, and it has an amount of tonnage that we purchase up to. And the reason that's important, Ms. Blythe, is because according to the resolution and according to the state contract, we have to commit to purchasing at a minimum 90% of whatever that number is. So if the number was 300 tons, then we have to commit to purchasing 270 tons, of salt. And what I'm saying is that the resolution that was passed there was no number in there. There was no specified amount.
What is our average use of salt per year? Have you kind of figured that out over the past 5 or 10 years?
Well, yes, of course, this year would not be a good estimate because of what happened. But over the past several years, we have usually purchased anywhere between 250 to 300 tons of salt. Now the concern is, and so let me just make sure that I give you the full picture. If we purchase the salt or commit to purchasing the salt, we have to have some place that we would be able to store it. Now, we have the capability of storing approximately 150 tons of salt on our own in the bins that we have in behind the city center. So if we purchase, 200 tons, then we would have to, make some kind of agreement, which is what Mr. Cole in the past is we've been able to work out an arrangement where some of that salt was able to be maintained at the original site, as opposed to us, necessarily having to bring it up here. But that is one thing, and it's tough to obviously predict because we don't know what's going to happen as far as, weather, in the future. But I would say that on the average, we're looking at typically anywhere from, 250 to 300 tons.
Mr. Mosby, do you know I'm assuming it was a resolution, the number that was when it was passed? Do you have any of that information?
I can pull it up, Ms. Zorb. Give me just a moment. It was a resolution, as you pointed out. And it was resolution number 5, resolution 05-2021.
Mr. Mosby,
Yes.
I mean, is it possible to just, I mean, we're gonna have to rely, I guess, on your recommendations, right? A little bit to start.
Yeah, yes, sir. Well, I would hope so, yes.
Well, I
You're
mean,
asking as far as what do I recommend as far as an amount in there?
yeah,
Right.
that would
So
be
I would,
good.
right. So I would say and again, all we can do is kind of base it on what we've seen the past couple of years, this year being a little bit heavier, but we would need a minimum, I believe, of to commit to 250 tons.
Well, I guess the simple question is, I mean, we all know that we do this every year. I you know, obviously, um, and do we really need to bring this resolution back to this committee, or just direct Ron to basically put the tonnage in and present it to council? I lean on the latter. I think council as a whole can masticate whether or not they think 250 tons is too much or too little or whatever. And there's no reason to flog it to death in this committee when we technically have already voted to
Correct.
buy salt.
Matt, I almost wonder if we can just make a motion to amend it. Can't we? Can we do that?
It's a
Put the amount in it?
resolution. I don't know, because it's already been passed. I don't know that we can. I think we might have to. I don't know. I mean, probably just to be safest, because it involves money and people are going to challenge things your government does. It's usually how it spends money. So part of me says that just to be super safe, we just throw another resolution, basically amending that resolution and correcting it. We can always suspend the readings or do what we need to do to get it done. I mean, Ron, when does it need to be in by?
Well, so in sub paragraph G, it makes it clear that basically we have to commit by April the 24th by noon. So yeah. So so it would need to be done by the next council meeting.
Well, okay. So let's unpack this for a second. So technically speaking, we've already given you the authority to do this. We essentially accidentally gave you a blank check, really.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
So
and that's why I brought it back, because I do want to make sure that it accurately expresses the wishes of council. I will tell you that honestly, I do agree with Ms. Zorb, Mr. Miller-Novak, that on council floor it could be amended just to include the amount, and then that way, another resolution would not have to be, completely drafted, because in essence, what you would have to do is draft another resolution saying that you're over, that basically you're, you're not amending this one, but rather what you're doing is superseding it. So that's why I just thought that if there was a motion to amend this particular resolution just to include the amount, then it would still be recognized as a resolution that it passed. It's just you came back later and amended it.
Yeah, or we could motion to limit you to 250 tons or something like that. I think you're right. I think we can do it through some kind of motion. How exactly that's worded, maybe just call Bill Dieters or something, Ron, and get a quick idea. But no, I think you're both right. Hearing you talk it out, I think we could probably do it just via motion next meeting. Does anybody have a problem with that after kind of hearing them two bounce it around?
I do not.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, well, then I'm going
to be
make
honest,
a notation.
Matt, I prefer doing, if you talk to Bill and it's allowed, I prefer to do the motion thing versus all the suspending readings, because kind of like you said, it's the money thing. So now it looks like we're going to hurry up and do a money thing. So that's why I'd rather just amend what's already been passed if that's allowed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does. And I think it's fine, from what I understand. And I'll, Ron can reach out to Bill. I think we're all in agreement. I mean, I'm picking up on the consensus that we're fine. Next council meeting, someone bringing a motion to make this happen and get it done so Ron can get it in by the 24th, right?
Yes. And if this committee is pleased with that, then since it is a committee action, it would go to the floor as a motion, on at the, as a part of the agenda for the next meeting. If this committee makes a recommendation from here.
Well, we can officially do that. I guess what you would do is maybe tell Mike to put it in new business or something like that for the next meeting. So,
I mean, yeah, I can do that.
so why don't we do this? I will motion right now that this committee directs Ron to somehow notate the need to make this motion on the next council meeting minutes, and we just handle it then, rather than pass it back to this committee.
Just for clarification, Mr. Miller-Novak, is there agreement on the amount, the 250 tons?
Well, if you're saying that's the minimum, then I mean,
I'm saying that's what I would recommend based on just, the snow that we had here and kind of looking at some of the things that we've had in the past. Of course, we can't anticipate what's going to happen, but that's what I would recommend based on what we've done in the past.
okay. Well, I don't have an objection to that. Does anybody else?
Yeah.
What if we only need 249 tons? How would we ever know? It's a joke. Absolutely a joke.
And I'm laughing. I'm
Okay.
cracking up inside, actually.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Expect Ron to do all of our sidewalks at that point in time.
Or maybe everybody can bring their little salt shakers and you can have them for dinner.
Right. So, are we all good? Everybody's fine moving it up?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't hear any nays. I don't necessarily need to do roll call. It is a
Right.
committee. But if there's no nays, then I'm going to say we're all agreed. Was that good?
Sounds good.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. We'll have plenty of salt next year and we won't have all the discontent on the Facebook, hopefully. That'll be great. So next issue up is salary ordinance. We're not going all in today, or anything like that, but this is something that is upcoming. And all I can do is voice an opinion I kind of have that I have a dream that it's simple, that the salary ordinance and this budget thing we do kind of happens in some reasonable coupling of events, and that we stop doing this retroactive salary stuff that we've been caught in for a while. So what I asked Ron and Ari to do in a meeting we had, I guess it was last week, was that, I want to see all the department heads make recommendations for any raises for, and of course, we're talking about unclassified staff here, any raises that they want for people in their departments, and for the administration and Ms. Hall to just basically give us a recommendation regarding the overhead, the budget. My opinion is that a department head is in the best position to understand the merit of their employees, the pros and the cons, what that person deserves in terms of an increase, or at least what they would recommend for an increase for that person. And then, of course, to move up the chain and for Ms. Hall to decide whether or not that recommendation gels with the overall budget. So I don't have any information yet on any recommendations. And then I just want to, especially for new council members, this is a very small portion of our employees we're talking about when we talk about this. Most of our employees are in collective bargaining units, unions. So our police officers, our firefighters, our public works folks, all these people, we negotiate collective bargaining agreements, and that's how their salaries increases and things like that are set, benefits. This is that small handful of employees that are not part of collective bargaining units. For example, Ron Mosby is one of them. Ari Hall is one of them. Jenny Link Wagner, who works as a clerk of our courts, she would be one. So those are the folks that we're really talking about here. So without moving any further, I guess the question is whether or not we need to move into executive session today, because I don't know that we have a meeting set up to do that yet, do we?
I did not set one up. I didn't know that was required. Sorry.
Well, if you didn't know that was required, then you don't have to apologize, because that would be my fault. I don't apologize. Ron, are you even ready to do that yet? Or because I don't think we can. It kind of hit me today that I know we put this in the idea of doing it at least in the agenda, but we did fail to maybe tell Mary Jo to call ICRC and set up an executive session invite.
Oh, yes, and I think based on our discussion that we had before, well, just to long story short, it would probably be best for us to just wait until May then. I know that there are two things that are happening in May. One is going to be the public hearing that Ms. Hall was referring to for the tax budget, but I don't really think that that should take long. In the past couple of times that I've done this, we have not had anyone that's actually come in and even said anything about it. So it hasn't lasted more than 5 or 10 minutes. And so having said that, we could put the executive session in on May and then just talk about it at that particular time.
Okay, well, do you have anything to add about the salary ordinance generally at this time without diving into details about employees?
I would just say, yeah, I mean, I appreciate your overview of it, and I think that that was quite accurate. I would just say to council that these are fairly small figures that we are talking about. And the other thing that you'd have to keep in mind is that most of these people that are on that salary ordinance, have not had any kind of a pay increase, as opposed to, as Mr. Miller-Novak said, those who are in the collective bargaining agreements, their pay increases are already calculated in and negotiated in to their contracts. So theirs are automatic. The unclassified people are basically, their raises would be determined by council and basically that's based on what is said in the charter. So I do think that it would be important to understand that and keep that in mind, and not to look at it as if to say that, a percentage for a particular individual that is working, that is unclassified, would have to be the same as one who is classified, because there are just so many different factors that make not just their jobs different, but even their overall benefit structure different. So just those are some things to keep in mind.
Mr. Miller-Novak, I had a question, and two questions actually. How do we address you? Because you're not Madam Chair.
That's cute.
That's a good question.
You could just call me Matt or
Oh,
Mr.
Mr.
Miller. I mean, Matt's
Mr. Chair.
fine. I mean,
Mr. Chair.
it's okay if you want, but it's a committee. It's not formal, and
Okay.
Matt is quite fine.
Okay. And then my other question is, I'm just curious about how many unclassified employees do we have with North College Hill?
Well, Mr. Miller-Novak actually already kind of identified the majority of them. So there would be myself and Diane Toll, who work in the administrative office in finance. There is Ms. Hall, and then she has one part-time employee right now. She actually has two, but that one position is vacant. There's Mr. Cole, who is our public works supervisor. There's our chief of police, Mr. Strand. There is Virginia Wagner, who is the mayor's court clerk as well. And then there are a couple of other positions that are actually part-time positions, but they are considered unclassified. That would be our fire chief and then the deputies underneath.
So maybe close to about 10 or so.
Roughly. And then I think also on the salary ordinance is also the law director. Although the law director is technically, it is a part-time position, but is not necessarily a quote unquote a direct employee of the city.
It's kind of a hybrid position.
Correct. Yes.
We pay a small salary and then technically firm fees in a way.
I'm counting 18.
The seasonal employees too. Did you count them as well?
So with them, that would probably be 20. Yes.
Okay. Does the administration or mayor have anything else to add about salary ordinance this time?
I do not. No, sir.
Neither do I.
Well, I don't either.
I just had another question. Are you suggesting that our executive session be a part of our first council meeting in May? Is that what you're suggesting, Mr. Miller-Novak?
No, Ms. Blythe. I'm suggesting that we do it in this committee first. So just because I know you're new, and I know all this stuff's a lot to learn in the very first few months you're doing it, but we're allowed to go into an executive session in any public body that includes committees, and one of the most frequently used executive sessions for all governments is to discuss employee pay because, think about it just in a very basic thing. You wouldn't want your boss like on public TV talking about all your pros, cons, flaws, and successes and failures in front of the whole entire world to see. So it's a bit of a privacy issue to protect the integrity of the employees. The law allows us to do that privately just to not destroy morale. Does anybody else have any questions, concerns?
Not it.
Well, if that be the case, I I think we have moved through our entire agenda. It's 50 minutes, so it's 8:20 at this point in time. So
Yeah,
if
Mr.
no one has
Miller-Novak.
anything else, oh, Ron, you're gonna.
Yeah,
ruin it.
it's just, again, it is I'm not trying to, well, I do want to make sure that I make it very clear. As I mentioned, both in email and in the last special council meeting, the road project for Sundale had come in, what I would say, over budget. Now, I am bringing that to council's attention because at some point, there will have to be some legislation that will pass to accept the contract, number one. But then number two, when we do accept the contract, we will need some direction on how we are going to account or make up that roughly $300,000 shortfall in the bids, because as I mentioned, the lowest bid came in about $300,000 higher than what was estimated. Now that isn't, and I do want to make it clear that should not be a total surprise, because supplies, the cost of supplies has increased significantly, particularly within the last 5 to 6 months. So we're just feeling some of the impact of that. But again, when I keep in mind the fact that, as I had mentioned as well, that we have a $590,000 outlay that we're going to have in February of 2022, approximately around that time, that between that and then this additional 300,000, that's about, $800,000. And so I just, again, wanted to make sure that council was aware of that.
Hey, Ron, I have a question. So where does the original estimate, I'll use that word, I don't know if that's the right word to use, where does the original estimate come from that we were 300,000 over? And then I guess subsequently, should we anticipate all road projects that are planned to run over? Is that a reasonable expectation at this point?
So let me start backwards. The plans and the estimates were, developed by our engineer. And at the time that they were submitted, I think it was reasonable to think that their estimates would have been fairly accurate, because of course, these numbers have been in the works for a while, meaning well over 9 months. Because I'm sorry, if you all don't know, transportation projects and road projects take time to develop, as far as the the financing is concerned. The drawings and everything have to be considered. In this case, as I had mentioned, it's also part of, there's a water component, just like we have on Galbraith Road. So at the time, I'm sure that it was a reasonable estimate. But again, with things that have happened within the past 5 to 6 months, and one of the things that had happened, just as an example, is, of course, I know that most people remember that there was a ship that was stuck in the Suez, and of course, that clogged up supply lines for, I think, 1.5 weeks, and so that's about $10 billion a day that is impacted in as far as commercial supplies. I would estimate that, yes, I would probably say that my conservative side would say that for larger projects, we probably ought to anticipate a higher increase. It's something that I'll talk to our engineer about, but Ms. Zorb, I would say that that's probably something that we need to consider, and I'll have to talk to Ms. Hall about it as well, so that as we're looking into the future, as far as the street fund is concerned, what we might need to do just to make sure that we have that covered.
Maybe one of these days something will get cheaper.
Yes, I'm hoping at some point maybe that is true. But I will say that, and I don't know that anyone asked about it at the time, but Ms. Hall and I were kind of discussing some of our revenue sources and revenue streams. And one of the ones that we were talking about was the gas tax. And of course, as you all know, the gas tax is part of what is used, for these, for some of these projects. And when COVID first hit, of course, we took a very significant hit because people simply were not buying gas. But now, not only is gas consumption increased, but as you also know, gas prices have increased. And so I suspect that, although I can't anticipate, when I first came on board, ODOT had anticipated that our city would receive an additional 172,000 in revenue for 2020, and then I think it was 174, I believe, or 175 in 2021. That number, I believe, may increase because of the increased gas consumption as well as the price increases this year. So some of that may, as Ms. Zorb may have been alluding to, some of that may be covered in some of those increases, but I just wanted to make sure that the council was aware that I do think that we will see some increase in the cost of the projects.
Well, that would be good. We're getting pretty close to 8:30 here. The one thing I do want to ask, Ms. Zorb, I'll try to remind you too. We'll make it a team effort to have an executive session capability set up with ICRC for our next committee meeting in May.
Got it.
And then Ron and Ari, if you can have the numbers ready and information from the department heads as well as Ms. Hall regarding the budget, concerning any requested raises for unclassified employees. So we're completely prepared to talk about them next meeting. Yeah.
Mr. Miller-Novak.
Yes, Ms. Nichols.
Are you requesting that information prior to the meeting or the salary ordinance?
I mean, not really. I mean, you do the best you can. I mean, I just want to know, like, when we get in an executive session, it doesn't even have to be necessarily written down. I just want to know, I mean, if you have your own, like, jotted down notes, I mean, I want to know, who's being recommended for what, why, so we can start chewing on it.
Okay, thank you. Because I know in the past it was requested that so the committee could look over the numbers before the meeting, but I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Well, I mean, unless I'm wrong, we're kind of ahead of the game a little bit, and to be completely honest, I don't, I do want to talk about it, discuss it. And I know there's 5 of 7 members here, but I mean, it's ultimately not necessarily this committee's final decision, right? It's council's final decision. So I do want to know, and I hope if it's possible and that's something that could be shared, that would be great. But we won't shame you if it's not done by then. At least I won't.
Mr. Miller-Novak, I would think that getting the information by, sometime between like Wednesday and Friday before the meeting would help, because it's like when we get things the day of the meeting, it's at the, kind of at the last minute, it's hard to go back and forth and pivot and read. So if we had at least a couple business days ahead of time, hopefully that would be a reasonable amount of time for us to print out and look at the information, because it's kind of hard to have the meeting, like when you first see it 20 minutes before the meeting, and then you haven't collected your thoughts on what you're reading. Thank you.
Ms. Blythe, actually, Mr. Miller-Novak sent that a week ago, I know he didn't send it to you, but he did he did send it a week ago because I felt like he made me look bad, him and Ms. Anderson. So I've got to like step up to the plate and send mine more quickly. But he did do, they sent it out a week ago. So I think that he'll make sure that you get them from now on since he knows you're on the committee. But yeah.
Well, I don't know that she's referring to the agenda. I think she's talking about the information for the salary ordinance.
That is
I could be
correct.
wrong.
Yeah, that's correct. A couple business ahead of time would be good for the salary ordinance, because if you throw it at us an hour or, hour or two ahead of time, look like we need to see it so we can collect our thoughts. So I guess if we got it Thursday, then that would give us 2 business days to be ready with our questions and whatnot. So no, I'm not talking about agendas. I'm mainly referring to the upcoming executive session for the salary ordinances. Thank you.
Mr. Miller-Novak.
Go ahead, Ron.
We could just make it easy. I mean, when we come together, of course, and we talk about the agenda, we can just have all of the paperwork for whatever agenda items, and then you can submit it to each of the members when you submit the agenda to them.
Okay, you're talking about the Wednesday ahead of time or whatever.
Correct. Yes,
we're
sir.
able to get together and discuss it. That's fine.
Yeah.
We can
So
do
they'll
that.
have the agenda, they'll have all of the items that need to be, discussed or deliberated. In this particular case, as you pointed out, I will say that it will not be an ordinance per se that would need to be quote unquote voted on, but rather, as you pointed out, it will be, suggested numbers that can be discussed in executive session.
That's fine. Yeah, it doesn't need to be a full ordinance. I think Ms. Blythe is just asking to see the numbers, so she can wrap her various synapses around them and think about them in advance before the discussion. So if you can get me that when we meet, then I will send it around with the agenda. I'll shoot for Wednesday or Thursday of the week before, Ms. Blythe, so you can look it over, okay? I always accept silence as acceptance. All right, so well, I guess we're good then. So that's I guess the follow-up items or action items, if you will. Ron, I will meet with you and Ari the week before our next meeting. If you can get me the salary information that I can pass around to everybody else. Ms. Zorb is going to get us all set up with ICRC so we can use that service for an executive session in the next meeting. In the next council meeting, there will be some notation made. We will motion to correct the salt purchase resolution and to undo Ron Mosby's blank check to buy 80 million tons of salt. And Ms. Hall is going to send me her 2 reports that she shared on the shared screen so that I can attach them to these meeting minutes. And that's all I have for today.
The reports are already in your inbox.
Oh, awesome. Well, if we're all good, then I say we adjourn. Any objections?
Sounds good to me.
I agree.
I agree.
I'll fifth it. Is that 5?
That's everybody. That was unanimous decision to adjourn. So thanks everybody for being helpful in my first meeting. I appreciate the support, and we'll do it all again next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks.
Miller-Novak.